Discussion. My voice is clear, right?
Yes, yeah, clear.
Yeah. Yeah. So yesterday we started discussion on Azure Data Factory, which is one of the major service providing by Azure. Okay. So where we discussed like we can be able to do some ingestion kind of tasks with minimal transformations, lift and shift operations. So those things will be doing this inside this Azure Data Factory. We'll be discussing further on different use cases and how to achieve that and all those things we'll be discussing further. So let me just open. Let me go to home and Azure Data Factory. Then whatever we have created yesterday, that instance, I'll be launching that particular instance. Okay. Everyone can go on mute, can go on mute, can go on mute, mute. Who's this Sai? Okay. Yeah. So this is the GUI of Azure Data Factory. And then we started creating a sample pipeline as well. So for simplicity, right? So to understand the GUI and the different tabs available here. So we just use this wait activity, which is very simple activity to start with. So that is the reason I just used it. So actually where exactly we can use this wait activity. So we'll get to know. So the real-time use case, even by just looking at this, right? So it looks very simple, but there is a real-time use case where we'll be using wait activity as well. Okay. So for better understanding and for simplicity purpose, I just started with wait activity. Please try to understand that. Okay. So slowly we will move on to different activities. Okay. So one by one, and apart from activity discussion, we'll discussing few of the tabs which are available one by one. It's not at one go. Okay. So if you go at all at one go, so that means you're trying to buy her something. Okay. So instead of that, my thought process is maybe we'll keep on discussing, and based on the scenario and use case, we'll be discussing one of these tabs and something like that, so that you'll get to know what are the different options available in Data Factory GUI and all. Okay. So whenever you do this, right? So for every activity, so when you go to this general, so the general is common on every activity. Okay, so here you can see learn more. Okay, so this will give you the documentation providing by Azure. So if I want to see what is, so of course we are discussing here what is wait activity or until activity. Okay, so we'll be discussing what the purpose of that particular activity and what is the examples to practice that particular activity, and in the actual projects where you can encounter to use this particular activity. So those discussions we will do, but if you want to see the proper documentation on on this particular activity, you can just click on that learn more. So it will take you to that particular activity and it will explain you. So what is the activity is about and different properties and everything. Everything will be provided by Microsoft Azure. Only thing is you need to understand this. So as a layman, you will not be able to understand much from this particular documentation. But if you want to see the end-to-end explanation, right? Maybe you can go through this and you can be able to see that. Okay. Yeah, but our discussion is good enough to go with. And whenever you see this canvas, right? So you can see this is canvas. You can say this as canvas. And when you click on the pipeline, so you can see some tabs available. And when you click on the activity, so the corresponding properties or corresponding tabs to that particular activity you can see here. So when you click on the activity, so those activity corresponding tabs will be available. And if you click on the canvas, the pipeline tabs will be you can be able to see. Okay, so for the first time, maybe you'll get confused, but going forward, right? So that is our common practice. Okay. So I have just clicked on it, and here you can say what this name. Maybe you can change the name of that particular activity. Maybe based on the scenario, maybe I can change this activity name. Okay. And description. If you want to say something, suppose you are using some activity, copy data activity, and I'm trying to copy from from ADLS to suppose SQL database. So if you want to specify something like that, you can describe it. Okay, it's not much required, but it is always recommendable to make it so that it will be a more described way and easily understandable when somebody else is looking at your pipelines. Okay, so then settings. So wait is a simple activity where you just need to provide the wait time in seconds. So that's what we have provided. Okay. So let it be. So this is a simple one, what we have discussed yesterday. And today I'll go with the next slides. Okay. So the first topic for today may be this one, parameters. So all these things we have discussed already. So how to debug and why do we need to publish? So publish is nothing but saving of your pipeline, and debug, to execute your pipeline, you will do this debug. Okay, so parameters. So actually, uh, most of the instructors, trainers, right? So they will try to explain these parameters at the maybe at the middle or at the end of the sessions. But I think parameters at the initial stage, so that will give you more knowledge, and even you'll think in a generic way when we discuss parameters at very initial stage. Okay, so we'll discuss what is the generic automations and all. Okay, so parameters. Question for you guys, maybe if you guys might already aware of it. What do you mean by parameter, and why do we need parameters in computer programming?
To use the same code and we can pass the values directly when running.
Yeah, correct. Any other thought process? Yeah, exactly. Thank you for answering. It is something like you'll be having your function or your code is already readily available. Okay, so being it anything, so Java, Python, I will show any programming language. So code is already available, and based on the input values you are providing to that particular code, the behavior will get changed. Okay, so maybe I'll come back to this again. Maybe if you take the regular real world examples. Suppose you have a washing machine. So washing machine functionality, we know it. We will put some clothes, and that will clean our clothes. That rinse or something like that, right? Okay, so when you start doing that washing machine, you can pass some input values to it. Okay, something like what is the wash time and spin speed and rinse or not, something like that. You can set your program input values to your washing machine. So based on that, it will give you that result. Okay, so the functionality is exactly same, but the way you pass your input values to the washing machine, so the behavior will get changed. So indirectly, the code or functionality will be there based on the input values you are providing to that particular code. So it behaves a bit differently. Okay, so that is what the parameters are. So for any programming language, to make it automated way. Okay, automation in the sense, maybe I'll take very simple example to explain you. Suppose I have some code like this: C equal to A plus B, or print C. Okay, so here what we are doing, we are taking two values, A equal to 10, B equal to 20, and we are adding up, and we are just printing the sum of these two. Okay, so now I need to add the values of 100 and 200. So definitely, if it is the code, Okay, and you have written a equal to 10, b equal to 20, and you are doing addition. And now if I want to make 100 and 200, definitely you need to go and change your code. Okay, if you're not parameterizing. So if I pass these values of a and b as input values to my code, so if that is the case, right? So you no need to make any changes to your code. You just need to pass the parameters to this particular code. Okay, so maybe here I can say $1. I'm just considering Unix style. So here $1 indicates the first parameter what you are passing to this particular code. Second parameter what you are passing to this particular code. Okay, so those values will go and sit inside this A and B, and finally it will execute. So indirectly what you are doing, you are creating some function or code, and you are making it parameterized so that you no need to make any changes to your function or code, and you can reuse this for multiple purposes. So I just gave very minor simple mathematical code. Okay, but your actual Java code or Python code, it may have some 1,000 or 10,000 lines of code which can be make it parameterized. Okay, so based on your functionality, of course we'll see a lot, and we'll try to learn all that how to parameterize in Azure Data Factory and as well as Azure Databricks as well. Okay, so just giving you the theoretical part, what is about parameter. Okay, so by that you can make it automated code. Okay, so this is called automations. So most of you guys, if you are not working as well, you will hear heard about this particular word called automations. So these automations can need to be done without with parameters. Without parameters, you can't do these automations. And generic. And this is another word which you will encounter during your data engineering process, generic process. So most of our programs, wherever it is applicable and wherever it is possible, we make the process as generic process. Okay, so that means we'll generalize the code instead of writing code for a particular use case. Instead of that, we will write the code in a generic way. So how to do that inside ADF and ADB, we'll discuss in detail. So without parameters, it is not possible. So that's where you need to understand the parameters. Okay. So with that, maybe I came back to ADF. Before that, any questions? Do you understand parameters? So if you know and if you understand, these are input values which you are giving to your code. So that is a simple statement about parameters. Okay, so going forward, as I mentioned, right? So everywhere we will discuss about parameters, but try to understand that during the discussions. So here, suppose in this simple pipeline itself, suppose I want to execute this and I want to make the wait time as 2 seconds. So instead of that, maybe I want to make it to 4 seconds. Then what you need to do, you need to go and you need to change your pipeline and you need to maybe execute or you need to do something inside that. And maybe I need to make it to 5 seconds. Again, you need to go here and you need to make the change. So instead of that, you can parameterize this value, what you are passing over here, and I can pass that parameter value when I execute, when I use this pipeline. Okay, so don't think what is the value of making it parameterized. Don't look at the value right now. So we'll get good number of use cases. So just try, I'm trying to explain you the concept of parameter. So that is the reason I just took this simple example. Okay. So you can create parameters inside this particular parameters tab inside your pipeline. So as I mentioned, when you click on this, you can see these tabs. So inside these parameters, I can click new, and this window will get open. So some values you can be able to give this. So maybe I'll say something wait seconds. So that is my parameter name. So the way I mentioned, right? Inside washing machine program, maybe wash time, spin speed. So those are the input parameters to your washing machine. So just think, so even washing machine also it works on some code. So somebody, maybe you are some guy like us will might have created that particular code, and that particular wash time or spin speed. So all those things are the parameters they have he or she got created during that particular program. So the similar way you are trying to do something in terms of data engineering. Okay, so wait seconds. So this is the name of the parameter what I have created at my pipeline level, and this is a data type. So for every programming language, you will see these data types. So when you start learning C, C++, or Java, Python, wherever you go, so these data types will be available. So that means whatever the values you are trying to use, right? So suppose here A and B, I'm trying to mathematical calculations. So that means these two parameters should be integer data type. Integer in the sense it's a numerical. And if it is something string, so then you have to define that as a string if it has some characters. And so if it is Boolean, that means either true or false. So if that is the case, you have to select that as Boolean. And array is one composite data type. So that means it's a collection of values. Okay. So here you have mentioned a equal to 10, right? So instead of that, if I say 10 comma 20 comma 30, something like this. So if you have the number of elements, okay, so that data type you can call it as array. Okay, so here I want to make this as a parameter, and I want to make definitely it is an integer data type. Why? Because I'm going to give some integer value, numerical value to it. Okay, so while creating this, it will you can provide some default value as well for any parameter. Okay, so default value in the sense, maybe when you start using this particular one, if you don't allocate any value to it, automatically it will take this default value what you are providing over here. Okay, so that is the significance of this default value. So right now I'm not giving anything over here. Maybe give some 2 seconds. Okay, and then I'm coming back to my weight. So here, so instead of this, now I want to use this particular parameter name over here. Okay, so how to use that? Maybe so there are different kind of representations based on your programming language. So this is what I have mentioned in Unix. Maybe in other programming languages, maybe they'll straight away use some argc of 0, argc of 1. Maybe if I'm correct in C language, we use something like this. And if it is ab initio, we will be using something like this. So there are different kind of representations to grab the value of parameters into some code. Okay, but since it is GUI, it is GUI, right? Data Factory is GUI. So you no need to write like some lengthy code. So instead of that, it is just a click. Okay. So how do you get that? If you see here, you can see add dynamic content. So this is one of the feature which has been providing by your Azure Data Factory, where you need to write maybe you need to write or you need to drag and drop based on your use case. Okay, so when you click on this, you can get some window, something like this. So this add dynamic content and whatever the window you are seeing. So this is common for every activity, most of the activity, wherever you see this add dynamic content, meaning you can be able to write some code and you can be able to dynamically get some content over here. So that is the meaning of this add dynamic content. So here, what my intention is, I don't want to hard code something like this. Okay. So instead of that, I want to write some code. I want to get the value over here from some parameter what I have already created. So since we have created this wait underscore seconds as a parameter at my pipeline level, so you are seeing that particular parameter name over here. So if you create 10 parameters, you can be able to see all those 10 parameters over here. Okay. So out of it, I just want to use this particular parameter value. I need to pass over here. So just click on this. It will be coming something like this. So you don't need to write anything. So usually, right, you have to write at the rate pipeline parameters dot something like this. But since it is GUI and as I mentioned, it is low code, you don't need to write anything. You just click this. Automatically, you can see some code written over here. Okay. And what these things that we will see. So whenever time comes, whenever use case comes, then we will see all those things. If we discuss these things right now, so that means you may not understand fully. So whenever use case comes in, then we will discuss all that stuff. So based on the situation. So I'm just using it. I just say okay. So when you see now, instead of hard-coded value, you are saying something like this. And now I'll execute. When you execute this, earlier it automatically executed your pipeline. So, but now when I execute this, since I need to pass some parameters to my pipeline, so it will wait for your input. So we gave default value. If you remember here, when you create parameters, you give some default value over here. Okay, so that is the reason when you say by default, you can see that particular value. So if you say, okay, automatically this default value will be taken and the pipeline will be considered the particular default parameterized values and will execute your pipeline. So instead of that, I need to make it some 4. Okay, so it will execute and it will wait for 4 seconds, of course, and it will be succeeded. Okay, so that is how you will create parameters and you will be using those parameter values inside your activities. So don't worry, we will see a good number of use cases to use parameters. So why I used, I already told you. So for simplicity to understand. Okay. Any questions for me? Yeah. Um, yeah. So for parameters, right? We have created now pipeline parameter. So if you see here, we have created parameter at pipeline level. Actually, we can be able to create parameter at a different level. Okay, so you can create parameter at pipeline level, dataset level. Of course, we have not discussed dataset yet, but remember parameters you can define at pipeline level, dataset level, or global level. I'll show you what is global level, and link service level or trigger level. So we will be using all these parameters going forward when we start working on different use cases. Okay, so but for now, I'll let you know what is global level parameter. So for that, maybe I need this one. Okay, um, see the parameter what you have defined inside the pipeline. So that is the scope of that particular parameter is at your pipeline level. So that means this particular wait underscore seconds, you can use this parameter inside your pipeline. So wherever you are creating multiple 100 activities, suppose. So in any of the activity, you can be able to use this particular parameter. Suppose you have one more pipeline which has been created, maybe some XYZ pipeline, an ABC pipeline, and some transformation pipeline, extraction pipeline. So based on your project, you will be having 10 or 15 pipelines. So whatever the pipeline, parameter you have created inside this particular pipeline, you cannot use this parameter in another pipeline. Why? Because the parameter what you have defined at your this particular pipeline is applicable only to this particular pipeline. So it cannot be used in another pipeline. Okay, but some cases there are some parameters which will be common across all the pipelines which is being defined inside this particular data factory. So inside this data factory uh, at all levels. Okay, so whoever is creating the pipeline and whatever the pipeline we are creating inside this data factory, they have to use some common parameters. So suppose you are connecting to some database. Okay, suppose you are connecting to some database. Okay, so to connect to that particular database, maybe DB underscore user ID will be common for everyone. Okay, and maybe ADB URL. Azure Databricks, I need to connect to Azure Databricks notebook and I need to execute some code. So that Azure Databricks URL will be common for everyone. So if that is the case, so instead of creating a parameter for each pipeline, maybe you have 10 pipelines, you no need to create a parameter, something like ADB underscore URL, and you no need to provide that particular value in every pipeline. So instead of that, what we can do, we can go to global parameter. Okay, so global parameters is available inside the manage tab instead of other tab. Why? Because this is one time. So this is at your data factory level, and this is once created at data factory level. Okay, so just click on this global parameters, and it will show you similar to some kind of parameters tab. And you just click on this, and you just say what do you want? Maybe ADB URL, and you will be providing your value over here, and you will save it so that this particular one you can use inside your pipelines. Maybe let us create a global parameter. Wait, maybe I'm using the same for explanation. Right. Okay, so I have created this global parameter, and now I'm going here. And again, I just clicked on wait settings. Again, I clicked on this dynamic content. And if you see here, right, I'm just deleting this. Inside the parameters, now you can see ADB underscore URL, which has been created as like inside the pipeline I have created. And again, wait seconds is your pipeline parameter. And these two are the global parameters. So ADB underscore URL, I have created one global parameter for just testing purpose. And this is the parameter what we have created. Okay. So once you click on this, again, you can see this code over here. So now when you click this, now instead of taking from pipeline, it will take from your global level. So global level parameter value will be passed over here. So same way, based on your activity and based on your use case, so the different parameters will be used and those parameters will be passed to the corresponding activities. Okay, so that's how you will be using these parameters. Okay, so how to define at these level of like pipeline level link service trigger, all those things we will discuss in detail. So that's what I'm saying. So instead of practicing something like this, like I'm against to learning something like A equal to this one, this one, B equal to this, and make some simple mathematical calculations, and then learn some A plus B whole square formulas, and then A minus B whole square formula. So I'm against to that kind of legacy learning. So make your learning dynamic. Okay. So try to use some dynamic mathematical calculations and complex mathematical program. So during your use case, maybe the during your mathematical coding, right? So that time maybe you need to learn what is A plus B whole square. Okay, so that time maybe you need to learn A plus B whole square. So learn during that period. Okay, so it's not that learn A, B, C, D and then apple, boy. No. So straight away try to read the sentence, and then during the sentences, if you don't understand some wording, so then understand that word, something like that. Because slow learning may not be useful nowadays, but because AI, a lot of technology evolution, so it's very dynamic, very fast. So make it your learning also very fast. Okay, so that's why I'm saying parameters over here. Why? Because whatever we are discussing, everything I'll embed the automations right from the beginning. Okay, so that is the reason I just pointed parameters over here. Okay, so any questions for me? Okay. Yeah. So parameters is about input values to uh, uh, particular code to make it automated. So that's what we are saying, that is parameter. And similarly, there is another concept called variable. Okay. So variable is something, it changes its value during pipeline execution. So if you see this code, okay. Yeah, if you see this code, so these two are the parameters. So what we are passing externally when you call this particular code. So if you see this value C, right? C is a variable. C is a variable. So that means during execution of your code, the value of C will be changed based on some logic. Okay. So whatever the logic you are writing here, and you are assigning something to this. So if that is the case, so those kind of thing we call it as a variable. Okay, don't get confused between parameter and variable. Parameters are something you are passing from externally, you are passing to your code, and variables are something you are creating inside your logic, and you are assigning something to those particular variables. Okay, so we'll be using parameters variables a lot. Okay, a lot in our discussions. Okay, suppose I'm creating some parameters. So assume I'm creating something like um, maybe current date is one parameter. Maybe my pipeline name, pipeline name. So this pipeline name, I want these two things as a variables. Okay. So parameters I got from this. Maybe in the same way, if you want to write something, if you want to use those variables inside your code, so there is another tab called variables. So inside the variables, you can see whatever the variables you have defined at your pipeline level. So those variables you can see from this variables tab. So if you click on this, this value comes here. Okay, something like that. So we'll see how to use these variables. Okay, and how to get this variable. So I want to assign some value to this variable current date. So how to do that? Basically, you will need to use some activity that is called set variable. Suppose I want to assign some value to this particular variable. So that you can do by using this set variable activity. So without this set variable, you can't assign the value to this. Simple. So that's how you need to use this activity. Okay. So if you want to perform this addition, you have to use plus. So there is no other option. So in mathematics, if you want to add something, you have to use plus. Okay. So don't think like, why do I need to use plus? Why can't I get, I know 10, 20, summation is 30. No, you have to use a plus. So same way, to assign some variable value, you have to use set variable. Okay. So inside this set variable, if you see, there are a lot of options. Okay. So these options, again, one by one, we will see, and we already seen this and this. And these two things, right? Secure output and secure input. Suppose if you want to assign the value securely. So since I don't want to expose the value just like that. So instead of that, I just want to make it secure. So then you can select this and this. So it's not much required for variables, but files, right? So if you want to send files to ADLS, if you want to store the data into database, so that should be passed as a secure, something like that. Okay. So just for the sake of discussion, I just told you. So what is this secure output and secure input? And then settings. So inside the settings, you can see uh, ultimately what you need to do, you need to assign the value to some variable. So when you go to the settings, you can see this name. And when you click on this drop down, you can see all the variables which has been defined inside your pipeline. Okay. And if you want to create a new variable altogether, then you can click on that new as well. Okay. So I'm just saying maybe current date. So I want to assign current date value to this particular parameter. Okay, if it is something like suppose what can I say? Maybe some file name. So file name is one of the variable, and file name is customers.txt. So you are specifying something like some hard-coded value inside your set variable activity, so that when you execute, so your variable file name will hold the value of customers.txt. So without writing any dynamic content or without anything, you just wrote hard-coded value. Okay, so that is also possible. Okay, suppose I'll execute this, and yeah, I'm not giving anything because I'm not using this anyway, right? So when you execute any pipeline, you can see something like this. So what are all the activities? So since it is 5 seconds, right? It will wait for 5 seconds and then it will be succeeded. Okay, it will be succeeded. Okay. Now if you see in monitor, in this output, right, we can see few things. Maybe this pipeline run ID. So this will be unique for each pipeline execution, so there will be one run ID will be created. So that is displayed over here. Okay. So why do we need this? Actually, it's not required, but programmatically, if you want to do something, if you want to debug, if you want to perform some kind of statistics analysis. Okay. So what are the activities got executed for a particular pipeline run, and how much time it took each activity. So if you want to do some kind of analysis, something like that, maybe that time you can use this. Otherwise, yeah, you can ignore it. And then yeah, and then this tab, right? So this single icon. So this indicates what are the uh, parameters and what value you are passing to those parameters. We can see from this particular icon. Okay, and then this is just refresh. So during your education, if you want to see the refresh, then this is the one. And user properties, I'll let you know later. Okay, and activity. So for each activity, so for each activity, you will be having run ID. The way you are using pipeline run ID, right? So same way for each activity during execution, you will be getting one run ID. So which will be again unique one. And then what time it got started and what is the duration, how much time it took. So all that things you can see over here. And as I mentioned, so every activity, right? So you can see two things. One is input and another one is output. So what is the input to this particular activity and what is the output to this particular activity? So for these kind of simple activities, you will not see anything. It is very simple, right? So this is this is parameter what we are passing to this, and for weight maybe we will not be seeing anything. So there is no output. So same way for set variable. So we give variable name as file name and value as customers.txt. And what the value of that you will be getting something like this. Value of that particular file name is customers.txt. So that's what you can see over here. Okay. Suppose instead of static, suppose I want to get this current date. So current date meaning you need to get today's date. So if you are executing this pipeline at this point of time, maybe you need to see that is something like 2026 So that value has to come to this particular current date. If you execute this after 1 hour, 1 hour of time, so obviously I want to see that particular value into that particular one. So how do you do that dynamically? So how do you do that in maybe in Unix or SQL, Python? So in SQL, maybe I can say get date, and if it is ab initio, it is now, and maybe if it is Unix date, maybe likewise in Python, you'll be having something. So same way here in ADF, you need to write that code, right? So where do you get that dynamic content? You just click on this add dynamic content. So we have discussed how to use parameters and we have seen variables and same way functions. So inside the functions, the supporting functions, maybe if you want to apply, you want to do some kind of logic. So what kind of logic? We'll see that all those things again. So if you see this logical functions, right? Maybe you want to compare one value to another value, both are equal or not. If this is greater than or equal to this one, so those functions comes under this logical functions. So same way, now what I need to do, I need to get the current date. So obviously the date will be available in my date functions. Okay, so there you can see multiple options, multiple functions inside this. Don't by heart, just look at what each function talks about. Okay, and based on the need, we'll go and pick those functions. So we will not by heart uh, anything. Okay, so remember that. Don't by heart anything, any concept. Okay, so just remember. And now to get the current date in ADF, you'll be using this UTC now. So UTC now, when you click on this, the value, the current time will be propagated to this particular variable that is current underscore date. Okay, so when I execute this, it will execute it again. Maybe I'll reduce this to 2. Okay, I don't parameterized. Okay. And when you execute it, right? So what we have seen, both got executed. So if I'm executing now, both got executed at the same time. If you see, both got started at the same time because there is no dependency. So we just made them as in parallel. So both will execute in parallel. Okay. So instead of that, suppose I want to execute this particular activity after this activity, or this activity after this activity. So if that is the case, then we have this option. So just drag and drop by selecting this to this. So that means after execution of this activity, then this activity will start. So something like that. Maybe if you have some hundreds of activities, then how what to execute after what. So then you have to do this. So what these options and all you will see. We will see and we'll discuss what about this. This is on success and this is on the second one is on failure and this is on completion. So something like that. So what does indicates all those things we'll discuss in detail. Okay. So now um, if you see here now, current date. So what is the value to it? What value we have assigned here? So we have given UTC now. So automatically the current value will be current date will be propagated and assigned to this particular variable. And maybe you may have something in your mind. I don't want to see my format in this form, my date format. I want to see something like 2026-01-28. Okay, something like that. Only I want to proper format. So in that case, again, so to do that, again, you have to write some kind of functions over here. So to get into that particular one. Okay. So that you can very well do by using this format date time. So this is one of the function which will do that particular formatting. Okay, so don't worry, don't think like we have mentioned it is a low code, and again we are seeing UTC now function and now format datetime function. We have not started any complex activities, but still we are looking at this. Don't worry. And don't think too much in the that perspective. Okay, so it is going to be very simple. So I want to use this format datetime, and then I need to convert one format into another format. Okay, so simply I can click on this format datetime, and inside that, what are you going to do? So I'm going to use this, and I want to format this into some format, maybe YYYYMMDD format. Okay, so once you do this and once you execute this, you will see your output in whatever your expectation is. And now if you see maybe, yeah, this will be executed. After this is successful, then it will start executing. So both will not start in parallel. So now it got executed successfully. And now if you see your data is in this format. Why? Because I am expecting in this format. Why do I need to expect in this format? Maybe my use case indicates I want to create a file, and for that particular file name, I want to append this date at the end of my file name. So for that reason, I have used this particular current date as a variable. Okay, something like that. Okay, so that is how you will be using this set variable. And once you create variables and you assign the value through this set variable activity. Okay, so apart from set variable activity, you have one more one more activity, that is append variable. So append, this is also very simple activity. Append variable is something which you can append values to this particular variable. Okay, so to use append variable, the variable should be of array type. So only to array type variable you can append. So if you define string variable or integer variable, suppose you have defined this as string or you have defined this as integer, so then you cannot use append variable. So the variable should be array type. Mm, File name array, and when I go here, when I go to append variable, and even here you can see append variables only supports adding to array type variable. Okay. And when you click on this, you can see only that particular array type variables. So you have created multiple things. Okay. So you can be able to see only that particular variable name, and then you can add and you can write whatever you want. Maybe we'll see like programmatically. Suppose you have some 10 file names, and I want to append file 1, comma file 2, comma file 3. So likewise, you need to create some list of file names, and you keep on appending file names to that particular variable. So in that case, we will be using this append variable. Okay. So, so these are the very simple activities uh, I want to cover before jumping into the actual um, list of activities. Okay, so any questions so far for me? So this is very simple to practice. So far we have not discussed anything, but try to log into Data Factory and try to understand all these tabs and try to understand everything. Suppose let me tell you one thing. Maybe initial discussion of ADF we discussed like one second. The pipeline name we can define over here, and whatever when you save this, right? So automatically, okay. So if something goes wrong, or when I say validate or publish, it will throw you an error. Append variable activity variable value undefined. Okay. So we have not defined anything. Maybe I just gave this. So I'm just saving it. So when you are trying to save, right? So all the things, whatever you have made the changes to Data Factory, so all those things will be saved. So if you see pipeline one, I've made some changes over here. So at global settings, meaning global parameter, we have defined one global parameter. So that is the reason that is also going to publish. Okay, so whatever you have done, right? So when you save, we have discussed that. So those things will be saved as a JSON. Okay, so this JSON will be used for different purposes. Maybe I can share this JSON to you so that you can just import it and you can see whatever the code, the pipeline is there inside that particular ADF. Okay, so let me get one simple one, and I'll show you. Yeah, this is one of the JSON what I have created earlier in my previous sessions. So let me just get that JSON and import that particular pipeline into our current ADF instance, so that you'll get to know how to export or how to import that particular JSONs and create the pipelines. Why is it taking so much of it? Okay, it's already open. I just copied over here, and I'm going to this one. Okay. And now I am creating a new pipeline. Okay. So assume that I'm creating new pipeline, and the pipeline name is something main pipeline. And inside this, I'm just copy pasting this. Okay. So just I copy pasted whatever I have. The name is not allowed. Okay. So whatever the pipeline here, right? So that same thing I have to use there. Otherwise, it will throw you an error. So this is different and that is different. So that is the reason we got that error. RER. Okay. So there I have used some parameters. So those parameters are not available here. So that is the reason it is throwing me an error. PL subloading. Actually, this is this pipeline is calling this two pipelines. So it's a kind of like a mixed pipelines. So that is the reason it again got an error. The pipeline name should be this. You'll understand all this maybe later point of time. One second, please. I don't have any other pipeline now. Okay, so leave it maybe at this moment of time. I'll let you know this part later. Actually, I have created a lot of pipelines, but all those are parameterized pipelines. And if you see here, right? So one of the pipeline, so this this pipeline will call this pipeline. This will call these pipelines, and all interdependent. And there are a lot of parameters defined. So because of that, it is not allowing to copy paste on all that stuff. Maybe we'll see this later. Just leave this. Okay, so how to copy paste? So all those things I'll let you know later. Okay, so that is about this JSON. Okay, so how to define the JSON, view the JSON, and how to get the JSON, that I'll let you know later. Okay, with that, right? So let me tell you some topic, like maybe some theoretical part. Okay, so that I can conclude today, and so that you can practice this minor stuff. So you have created this pipeline and you have used some activities and you have executed and you have seen some result over here. Okay. Suppose you want to copy from one source to another target. So some activities you are doing. Okay. So who are taking care all this stuff? Okay. So to do some activity, so to do some task, at your computer or in any programming language, there should be some compute. So compute in the sense, maybe it needs some memory, some storage, some RAM. So there should be something. So somebody should be there, and that has to taken care by that particular part. Okay. So that is integration runtime in ADF. So this is the compute service which will be taking care of all the stuff what we are discussing, and execution, RAM, storage. So all that will be taken care by this concept called integration runtime. Okay, so who will be taking care of creating this integration runtimes and all? Actually, your infra team will be taking care of this creation of integration runtimes. But you need to understand what is this integration runtime. Okay, so if you go here, right, inside the manage, you can see one of the option, that is integration runtimes. So inside this integration runtimes, you can see all the integration runtimes which is created for this particular Azure Data Factory. So by default, for any data factory, so that will be having one default integration runtime. So that is Azure Auto Resolve IR, Azure Auto Resolve Integration Runtime. Okay, so this will be used for suppose if you want to communicate from cloud services. Maybe I want to communicate from ADF to ADLS. I want to extract some data from ADLS storage, and I want to put the data to ADLS, or I want to extract the data from SQL to SQL, or I want to perform something in Logic App. So if it is something like that, then this auto resolve IR will be much useful. Okay, so apart from that, we have two more integration runtimes, that is SHIR, that is self-hosted integration runtime. That is something like you are interacting with some on-premises. It's not inside the cloud, and you are interacting with something which is in on-premises. Like you are interacting with Oracle, are you interacting with something else? Maybe I'm interacting with some Cosmos DB. Okay, and it's a private network, so it's not publicly available, not on cloud. So then you can use this as a SHIR. Okay, and apart from on-premises and everything, this SHIR will be useful for even for cloud services as well. So indirectly, what I'm saying is auto resolve IR is only for cloud services, but SHIR is for both on-premises and as well as cloud services. Okay. And the difference between these two is when you use Azure IR, right? In terms of cost, in terms of performance, it is costly. Okay. So Azure IR, Auto Resolve IR is costly when compared to SHIR. Okay. And if you remember in first session, we discussed data flows. Okay. So at a high level. Okay. So data flows is something which you can do some transformations, complex transformations at ADF. When you use SHIR, you can't use data flows. So SHIR will not support data flows. So that is one of the reason we'll not be using data flows in ADF. Okay, so it involves a lot of cost. Okay, and third IR is SSIS IR. So before cloud, right? Before Azure introduces this cloud computing, so Azure follows one ETL tool. So that is SSIS IR. So if you by any chance, if you still have some SSIS code or SSIS packages and you have to integrate that into ADF. So if that is the case, we'll be using this Azure SSIS IR to integrate with that particular SSIS packages. Okay. As I mentioned, it is just for your education purpose. So the creation of all this. So Azure Auto Resolve here, of course, this is default. You don't need to take care of anything. But if you want to create SHIR or SSISIR, then these two will be taken care by your admins, infra team. Okay, so you'll not be having access to it. Only thing is, if you are interested to use this, then you will be using this. So where do you use this? We will see. So when you start looking into some good activities like lookup activity, copy data activity, inside that particular activities, you will be seeing how to use this IR. Okay, so I'll let you know that time. So by creating link services and all, you will get to know how to use this IR and all. Okay, so that is about integration runtime. Maybe link service and all we'll discuss later. Tomorrow, maybe I'll let you know tomorrow, and then slowly we'll jump into the actual activities. So you'll get interest when you look at the actual these activities and some business use cases. So that time we'll discuss a lot about use cases and all. Okay, so any questions for me? Yeah, if not, maybe I'll stop here and continue tomorrow. Okay, sure. Thank you so much. Bye.